Well, welcome back. This is our Momentum Stories series. I'm Nettie Owens, and today I've got with me Darrell Pressley of Presley Media Group. Thank you, Darrell, for joining this conversation. I'm glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. We're going to start, as we have been in these last several stories that I've been sharing, with what you're doing now. So, Darrell, if you could just give our listening, watching audience a sense of, who are you? What's Presley Media Group? What are you doing?
Well, I'm the principal of Presley Media Group. We are a public relations, media, and crisis communications firm here in Maryland.
Mhm.
We work with our clients to promote, to position, and to protect their companies or their personal brands and or reputations. We do that by controlling the message when things hit the fan. We help to connect their messages to the right people. And then we, as we say at PMG, we crush the media with a clear, concise, and consistent message. Why is that important?
Mhm.
Well, after 30 years of being a journalist and 20 years as a public relations executive, the key for us at PMG is to create the content, deliver the message, control the narrative, and protect the brand. Because when companies or personal brands,
Mhm.
business, community, political leaders, they don't create the content, they don't deliver the message, because they don't do those things, they are not able to control the narrative and ultimately not protect their brand.
Mhm.
So we focus on the promotion of a brand, the positioning of a brand, and then the protection of a brand. And we combine all those things together to help people change the way they communicate with
Mhm.
folks internally and externally. So we position, we promote, and we protect.
Excellent. So, you mentioned in your explanation of what you do, that your experience is 30 years in this field. Can you talk a little bit about those 30 years? What brought you to this place? What were you doing 30 years ago?
Well, I love telling stories, and I went to what I believe is one of the best journalism programs in the country. I'm originally from Detroit, so I went to Wayne State University, and through their journalism program, we did not think about theory. We went right to the heart of telling stories because our professors were actually reporters and editors.
Mhm.
So they were in the field in Detroit. When they got out of the newsroom, they came to the university and they taught us in real time what they were doing every single day. And that passion and that love translated to us in the classroom. So
Mhm.
for years, I was writing stories. At the beginning, it was murders, shootings, stabbings. One of
Wait,
the
isn't there a name for that? Isn't there like a in the newsroom? I feel like at some point you told me there was like a
it's like the cop shop, basically. We follow the cops wherever they go, and we cover the breaking news.
hmm
But at the end of the day, it was really about that story and giving people voices that didn't have the opportunity to have their voices told.
hmm
And then I transitioned from breaking news to education, which is still my passion today, to
hmm
help tell stories so parents knew exactly what was happening in their classroom. So we actually connected the classroom to our viewers and to our readers because we give them the opportunity to see what's happening inside their classroom so that the parents know exactly what's happening. And
hmm
that was a love and a passion because imagine working two jobs, focusing on providing for your kids and not knowing what's happening when they go to school and they spend most of their time there. So we opened up the doors and allowed them to see exactly what was happening in the classroom so they could be engaged.
hmm
And then I transitioned from that into public relations. And that was another opportunity to go even further and not just talk about what's happening in the classroom from a reporter's lens, but
hmm
actually being at the table and working with educators to talk about what's happening from that parent perspective, to give them another lens, another perspective when they're in the boardroom making these decisions that involve millions of students and their parents.
Mhm.
So that was another passion to be at the table to represent voices again that may
Mhm.
not have had the opportunity to speak to educators because I had been a reporter and
Right.
work with teachers and work with parents and work with students to be able to translate that to dealing with what was happening from that level and
Right.
really talk about policy. So that was exciting. And then I did that for about 10 years and then moved to the DMV and worked in the District of Columbia government. Another opportunity to talk about what was happening in communities and sharing that with directors and the mayor's office and telling that story. But then also telling the story from the district government's point of view of what they were trying to do to empower their residents in the district and visitors to the nation's capital. And that was exciting. So while you in 2019 and a lot of people were hunkered down during the beginning stages of COVID-19, I was actually in the laboratory in DC that was handling doing the testing for COVID-19.
So is that
So,
what happened? Did you
so
accidentally
I'm actually
file
I work
out
yeah, I
of
work
the?
I work for the DC Department of Forensic Sciences, the laboratory. And just a few steps away on the other side of a wall were scientists handling and doing the testing of COVID-19.
Wow.
That did two things. One, it really helped me to see the importance of communications and getting that out to residents to help them to be prepared to protect themselves for a virus that we at that time knew little to nothing about.
Hmm.
But as I traveled home, I also saw in the communities businesses that were shuttering, that
Hmm.
were closing. And two things came to me. That one, it showed me that either A, companies were able to pivot in the sense
Hmm.
that they changed their business model. They were having, restaurants who were doing in-house. Now they had to figure out how to do the delivery. You had to figure out how you could pivot, tell that story, and keep things moving. Or unfortunately, you weren't able to tell your story. You weren't able to get those messages out. You weren't able to get help, and then you unfortunately had to shutter.
Right.
So I turned what was a part-time hustle into a full-time service to help business do exactly what we talked about at the beginning: create the content, deliver the message, control the narrative, and protect their brand and
Hmm.
their reputation. And so that's what we're doing today. And so that's the journey over 30 years from a journalist, PR executive, to now the principal of a PR firm, again, to try to help businesses and individuals, again, political leaders, business community leaders, tell their story, get it out there, build leverage and sustain their brands, because it's not an if something is going to happen, it's a
Uh,
when, and to
yeah,
be
for sure.
prepared for that crisis.
So what drove you to start the side hustle, and what then like really pushed you into saying I'm ready to take this into a full-time endeavor?
Really, I did it quite honestly on a dare. I was talking to a friend and he was starting a business and he said, it's great and I'm excited and I'm nervous. And I said, oh, you know what? I've always thought about doing it myself. Well, you should do it. Oh, no, you're afraid, you're scared. And so he kind of lured me into taking that journey with him because he didn't want to
Yeah.
do it by himself. And so on a dare, we started it. But in the back of my mind, I knew that the passion that I had for writing and telling stories, I could really do that at some point in my career as a business owner. And so it made sense for me to start out and then
Hmm.
really doing it, on a part-time basis to really get my acumen up about actually running a business. And again, lo and behold, at some point, it just really resonated with me that it was time to really do this, to help companies and help businesses, mom and pop shops who
Hmm.
don't really understand communications and how important that is, to help them, nonprofit organizations, not just the major companies, but small mom and pop shops and nonprofit agencies, to help them to tell their story.
Something that has always struck me about our conversations, Darryl, is um, I hear a lot of people talking about PR and media
Yes.
relations, and they're talking very like much, it's all outside of the company. But every time we've talked, you have encouraged me to turn that communication inward, and that whatever strategies you're considering or you are using outward into the community, you should also start with, or you not also, but you should start that communication with your team. What drove you to have this passion um, for for bringing the communication internally, when so many other PR firms that you'll talk to, they don't even, that's not even on the agenda, like at any point. So what did you see? What were you experiencing that told you, you know what, I need to make sure that when people are talking about outward communication, they're also talking about internal communication?
Well, two things. One, I was a journalist, and I have to that once a journalist, you're always a journalist, and I use that now.
Graham said the same thing. I just want to
Yeah,
know that. He said the same thing.
right. The reason why that's important is because I'm the person that at the time used my sources to get my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And the philosophy that I use today stems from that. What I tell people is my philosophy is you can easily turn an adversary, an ambassador, someone boots on the ground, your staff, your partners, your
Mm-hmm.
allies, very quickly into adversaries because you don't show them on the internal side the value that they bring to the table. You're
Mm,
a small organization that's about to scale. You're a new business and you've got a brand new team. You've been in the business for 20, 30 years, and now you're making this merger, or you're going to acquire a company.
mm-hmm.
If you don't tell that story first, you can turn those allies, those boots on the ground, into adversaries because they've lost that sense of value. When you're thinking about that trajectory, I call them inflection points that we just
Mm-hmm.
talked about. Imagine your staff, your partners, your stakeholders reading about this merger, this acquisition, this new product launch
Mm-hmm.
externally in a magazine, in a blog, in a tweet, an X now. They lose that sense of value. Well,
Mm-hmm.
why am I reading this from the outside and not hearing about it on the inside? And that's why priority number one for us is to tell that story internally first.
I feel like perhaps ChatGPT might have talked to you before their recent debacle.
It would have been
I've
good,
learned a
right?
lot from
It,
your
it,
strategy
it
here.
would have been good because I'm the person that when you lose that sense of value, you slip me
Mm-hmm.
that internal document,
Mm-hmm.
take a screenshot and email it to CNN. You take some document and mail it to the Washington Post, and now they've said in an exclusive, an
Right.
internal document from X company. That's because they've lost a sense of value. So when you're on that trajectory, think about this. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going. Here's how we get here. The
Mm-hmm.
key is then, and here's the value that you bring to us in that journey. You tell that story to your ambassadors, to your boots on the ground, to your allies, and now they feel that sense of value and they're taking that journey with you. And so it's like the thought that you're sending a man to the moon. One of the marketing stories that we hear all the time is that some high person in NASA is in uh, late at night, and a gentleman is custodian is working. He introduces himself. What are you doing? The custodian is saying, I'm sending a man to the moon.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
work that I'm doing tonight will prepare the lab for that person who comes in tomorrow who's going to help us get to the moon. So he feels that sense of value, and that work becomes even more passionate to him. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine as a company, again, brand new, mid-size, major company, not telling him his value, not sharing that. That's what you lose.
Right.
Don't do the internal communications first as a priority.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I wish everyone would hire you. I just
There you go. There you go.
yeah, because it would change. I don't feel like enough organizations are putting this priority first. but how powerful would it be if they did, and how different an experience for the worker in that company, for the company, and then for what that company could do, because so many companies are doing amazing work.
Amazing.
They're not
Absolutely.
getting buy-in from their employees first, their contractors, their vendors, and so they lose, as you said, an opportunity to turn to have an ally, an
Yeah,
ambassador, and instead you have people who are, not as interested. They're just clocking in, clocking out, and
absolutely.
and or worse, they're leaking an important internal document to the press that paints the company in a poor light. So I love the work that you're doing, Darryl. And every time we have a conversation, I learn something. Um, and I appreciate that about our dialogues. So it's been a couple years since we crossed paths. I think we were brought together through Virtual Rebels, through Jim Reese and the networking there. If I remember correctly, you might correct me if I'm wrong on that point. But eventually you came and joined us at a CEO network meeting, and then you came to Momentum Live. And I'm just curious, what drew you to participate in those discussions? Obviously, you have a lot to contribute, so it's not a shock to me. Like, but I was wondering on the other side of that, what drew you to come in and to be part of that dialogue?
When you're a journalist, you deal with deadlines and you deal with that crunch time, and you're always thinking about time management and the importance of it. And at that time, I felt a sense of urgency, which I do still today, to
Mm-hmm.
do the work, to really do that work and be passionate and intentional about what you're doing. And at that time, I had decided to make that transition, as I talked about, and very intentional about figuring out, how do you do that? How do you take 30 years, 28 years, 25, however many times? How do you take that and translate that into a business?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I had the passion and the desire, but I did not have that person. I did not have those conversations to help me figure out, how do you make that transition? So first and foremost, that was really the intent. And in speaking to someone who said, you should do one of these momentum events and get involved with that and really and I'm like, oh no. But in talking to you, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, again, you're focused on making a transition away from government work, away from working for a PR firm, to starting your business and moving in that direction. And at the time, that was my thought.
Mm-hmm.
I need to talk more about the business, less about my background, more about the business, where I'm trying to go, less about where I am and how I got there.
Mm-hmm.
And the momentum experience gave me the opportunity to really take a step back and think about, well, where are you trying to go? I'm trying to go in this direction. Why are you trying to go in this direction? Well, I'm trying to. And it really made me think. And the folks there who are still um, part of my journey, well, what did you do? Well, as a director of communications, I protected my agency. I protected my principal, a commissioner, a superintendent, a judge. I helped to position them if there were new agencies. I worked for a new agency that had just been stood up, and so we helped to position them to really showcase what they did. There's a lot of marketing that went into that, but telling the story first and then giving it to the mayor's office to then. So I was positioning and I was promoting and I was protecting, but I want to get away from that. And they said, whoa, are you sure you want to do that? Why don't you think about protect, promote, position?
Mm-hmm.
It's really the things that you do now in your business. Oh, wow. And really, that was the moment they put me under a microscope. They had me bare my soul, which I had never done. but they really had me really focus and key on the outcome. And that was the experience. And um, the conversations with you made me say, well, look, try this,
Mhm.
have this conversation, talk to this person, come to momentum, be a part of this community, have these conversations. And through my experiences, even in the last 6 months to a year, two things have really come out of my journey from that. And that's really looking at partnerships and friendships, business, yes, absolutely. But the
Yeah.
partnerships and the friendships that have come out of that have really been key. When you talk to people who are like-minded and passionate, you feel better about the journey that you're taking. That's scary, that
Mhm.
flying 30 feet in the air and then jumping out of that airplane. And Bob Graham is someone that you introduced me to, and former journalist, still a journalist, as we say. And we were trying to do the same thing. And to have someone who understood what you brought to the table and where you're trying to go, even today, we had conversations about really using that texture,
Mhm.
using that information, using those skill sets to take your business to the next level. And so he and I, after it's been almost 2 years, are still connected in the sense that we're trying to do the things that will take us to that next level with the same passion, with the same drive, with the same intensity when we were journalists. Now PR folks, marketing people, he's got a direction that he's trying to go, and it is phenomenal. And we're just really feeding off of each other's intensity and passion and camaraderie. And even today, we're trying to figure out how we can keep that moving forward as we try again to take us to another level, as we take other businesses to a level. So I'm grateful for that experience. You have been amazing. I would not be in the position to make that transition and move to that trajectory without having that opportunity to really kind of bare my soul, pull the covers back, and
Mhm.
expose my passion and my drive and my intensity with a group of people who were trying to help me focus and then benefit from the experience themselves.
Mhm.
But that was a great opportunity. Momentum was really the catalyst for me to make the trajectory changes that I'm trying to do today. So it was a great experience.
I appreciate that Bob Graham also talked to about your friendship when we talked about his story, and that means so much to me. What I noticed in taking these stories over these last several days, we've just started actually, is everybody's got somebody. Everybody has somebody that brought them into the community or that became their close friend and confidant. And it's really meaningful to have those kinds of connections. As you said, you might be moving in the same direction. You might have had a similar background, or might be similarly situated, with your family or some of the challenges you've faced. And you can't talk about business and the struggles of being a business owner in every place that you go. People don't understand. It's kind of a unique experience to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, to be taking those risks, to be trying something new, to take all of that experience and put it into what becomes really your passion project out into the world. And so having people that understand what you're putting into what you're creating is really important. And it's different than just learning a skill or a tactic, which we can, we can share marketing strategies and sales strategies and operation strategies, but having people that understand what you're going through and can allow you a space to unpack that, it's a really important part of business ownership that often is missed, because we think we have to do it alone, or we don't know where to find that resource or whatever. So it really does bring a lot of joy to me to hear that those
Yeah.
conversations are happening either in our rooms, in masterminds or peer discussions or at Momentum Live or outside of those rooms, that those conversations continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, very quickly, I give credit where credit is due. And the thing that I talk to people about with you is that you're a business coach, obviously, right? But not for me. You're more like a business guide. I think we talked about that before. Imagine going to an amusement park, imagine going to a zoo, to a museum, and it's huge, and you're just trying to figure out how to navigate that tremendous space.
Right.
You walk through the gate or you walk through the door, and someone hands you a guide, someone hands you a map and says, okay, you want to visit this, you want to go here, you want to speak to. That's what you've done for me, and that's very appreciative that it's not forced. It's just a guide, and you've given me a map, and the map was momentum, or map was a mastermind. The map took me to that community. So that guide to help you on that journey as a business, whether you've been in business from the work that I do for 30 years, or you've been in business for a few days or a few months, or you're right in that middle stage where you're trying to figure out where to go next, to have that guide who will gently take you to a different place that you've never expected before. That's an important thing for someone who's trying to start a business or navigate different or difficult waters. So I was very appreciative, as I am today, for that guidance, because it led me to people and led me to experience, to the mastermind, to momentum, to get me to where I am today.
I love that metaphor, and how you're describing it. And everybody kind of comes to their experience differently. Each person gets a different, a different thing out of it, a different guide, or whatever it is that they need. I'm curious if there's anything that surprised you about your experience in Momentum.
Someone had told me, as I was starting the journey, that one of the things you'll experience and that you really have to take advantage of is partnering, working with, what have you, with unique people and experiences. And if I know of any other person who is a unique person, who is I have a unique relationship with, is Bob Graham. And you would not think that he and I would be right, the dynamic duo that we are together, but he and I hit it off, come from different places, same skill set, same background, same experiences. And that it was a unique opportunity for us. We would have not met, I don't think, if not for momentum and the mastermind. I don't think we would have met, but thankful that we have, and we're on this journey as partners together. But that was a unique experience, and it was a unique opportunity, and now I have a unique friendship. So that surprised me, because I wanted to work with PR people and just talk to PR people and just engage with PR people. No, that's not it. Oh, I want to just work with journalists and people who've been in journalism, and no. And so now I know a community of people who do things that are totally different from what I do, in industries that I would have never thought of. But those partnerships to say, hey, I've thought of this. This may help you. I've experienced this. You may want to check this out. The passion that people have for the things that they do resonates with me, because we're like-minded in the sense that we're trying to do something different and do something great and help other people, help other businesses, help individuals, help communities. And that's the uniqueness of, what I've been able to experience, and not just really focus in the neighborhood, focus in the same community, but look at opportunities to do unique things and discover unique opportunities and have friendships with unique individuals. And that was surprising to me. And that engagement was really good, and it still is today.
That is often an often cited feature, is that we have people from every background you can possibly imagine, differences on every level, and we all find this camaraderie in this space. If somebody were considering dipping their toe in the water, they're thinking about either coming to Momentum Live or becoming a part of the Momentum community, is there some advice that you would give them as they're thinking about that decision?
The phrase, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. For me, that was the journey that I took with you. Something I would have never done before. But again, with my intensity and my sense of urgency, I took the jump and took the leap, and it was the right experience. So if you are thinking about doing something that you've never done and you want to do it, think about doing things that you may not have done before, but in this space and in this time, take that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's valuable, and it will be invaluable to you. So that's the advice that I would give.
I love that. Thank you. So people are listening to your story and they're like, I'm one of those companies that does not have my internal story figured out, let alone my external story. I have things I need to protect. I have a company I want to promote, or an organization I want to promote, and I want to position us. What do they do, Darrell? How do they get in touch with you? What's the first step?
Darrell Pressley is on LinkedIn, Presley Media Group on LinkedIn, PresleyMediaGroup.com. You can reach out to us. We believe our passion and what we do, we should be the firm that you call, again, to create the content, deliver the message, control the narrative, and protect your brand. So PresleyMediaGroup.com, look us up on our website, look us up on LinkedIn. We would love to even have a discovery conversation with you to find out where you are. We will meet you where you are right now, and we will work with you, take you with us on the journey that we believe is important for you to protect, promote, and position your brand. And at the end, we will help you to change the way you communicate with folks, with the primary focus on internal communications. And then external communications is gravy once you do the internal work first. But look us up on our website, PresleyMediaGroup.com. Look us up on LinkedIn. We're on the social media channels. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk and have a conversation, how we can help you to position, promote, and protect your company.
And I'm just going to put a note in here. You do have phenomenal experience with crisis communications. So don't wait until the right time to call Darrell. Like, obviously, it's great to call him now when you're not having a crisis. But if you happen to be listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, it is hitting the fan right now, give Darrell a call. I promise he is calm in the storm and can help you navigate that, as well as when things are running, pretty even keeled. Which you might, if you're watching the video, he does have a QR code. Just use your phone, scan it, and I'm sure that'll take you
this way.
take you to those details as well. Thank you so much, Darrell. It's been great to hear your story today. I know I learned some things I didn't know already, which I appreciate knowing, and I hope others will reach out to you as they're working to protect, promote, and position the organizations that they're working with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.